Hey VC, it's TC here. I wanted to get in on the thread that's going around. Started by Callum a few days ago. I'll have a link to his site about goofy, good, not so good band names. He's looking for a name for his band, and I'm sorry I can't get the full name, Callum's full name up right now because our internet has been down for the last 6 hours. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know when this will get loaded. But I just wanted to go over some of the band names that I thought were original or goofy or silly, all of which are just, I'm going just by album except for one, which is a cassette, and I'll have to use Mr. Magic Box right up here, over here. When I get to it, I'm going to save it for last. Anyway, some of the bands I'm just curious about. Air Supply. It's a nice enough name, but were you suffocating when you came up with this? Are you going, I can't breathe, I need an air supply? I don't know. I just found it, always have found it to be a kind of goofy name. Obviously successful. I'd also like to know who or what a cha-cha is. The cha-cha-chas recorded Jungle Fever in the 70s. I'm assuming there's some meaning behind it. I've never been able to find it, so if somebody knows what it is, leave it in the notes, in the comments below, and I'll take a look at it. But I always thought that was a rather unusual name. No surprise here. Def Leppard. Joe Elliott has always said he was inspired by Led Zeppelin and their misspellings. That's why he came up with Def Leppard. Obviously worked for him. It's a catchy name. I don't know whether I would have picked it, but, you know, it's definitely memorable. Exile. Why would you want to name your band Exile? Exile had much better luck on the country chart in the 80s than they had on the pop chart in the 70s. They had one big hit called Kiss You All Over, which was #1 in 1978. But Exile, that's not a good thing. That's like, you know, after this one song, we're going to exile you to the bottom of the Hot 100, which is pretty much what happened. I don't know. Yes, everybody's favorite baby disease, Kajagoogoo. My wife often says it sounds like a baby disease. She's not wrong. The album is great. Lamal is a fantastic vocalist. But the name, while memorable, and Too Shy was a big hit, I don't know. It just seems kind of a weird... I'd love to know the thought processes they had. I've read several stories, none of which are all that believable. But Kajagoogoo. And then when they shortened it to just Kaja, after Lamal left the band, I don't know. Strange. Or was fired. Anyone remember Limited Warranty? Yeah, I thought so. This is kind of a self-defeating name, like Exile. Limited Warranty says you're going to have 60 days up to a year, and then nothing else. Limited Warranty was the grand champion vocal group on Star Search, I think their 3rd season. No big hits from it. It was a good album. It is a good album. Great pop sound, but no real success. Limited Warranty, more actually like their name. The Manhattan Transfer. Now, I'm assuming this is related to the New York subway system somewhere. You know, you transfer in Manhattan from the Bronx, maybe. I don't know. They've certainly had a great deal of success with it. They've been around for 40, going on 50 years now, with several different, you know, members. They have I've forgotten the name of the gentleman that is the most recent recruit after the passing of Tim. I've forgotten his last name a few years ago. Tim Hauser, was that it? Let me check the album, actually. I've been a big fan of theirs, and I should know that. Yes, Tim Hauser, who passed away a few years ago. Um, but I always thought it was an odd name for a band. The Nylons. Okay. I love the Nylons. I have more by them on CD. This is the only vinyl I have by them. They are terrific, vocal only for the most part, although they do use instrumentation on a couple of their albums. From Canada, but when I think of nylon, I think of pantyhose. This is not the best name. Or rope used for tying ships to the dock or something. I don't think of a band. So I'm not sure if nylons was the best idea for a name for a band. Oxo. Great band, great leader. This is the band that Ishla Desma would lead later after Foxy in the 1970s. One big hit called Whirly Girl. This is the blue version. There's alternate versions of the cover, I guess. I never really paid attention to it till I got on Discogs, and I'm still learning all about that stuff. But Oxo, where did they come up with this name? Somebody was playing tic-tac-toe one day and thought it looked and sounded good? I don't know. Pseudo Echo. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what a pseudo echo would be. A fake echo. Maybe they were inquiring, echo as produced by a soundboard. I don't know. Australian band. Big hit in America was their remake of Funky Town. Great album, weird name. Sad Cafe. This is one of my all-time favorite albums, but the name of the band has blown my mind. What exactly is a Sad Cafe? I think actually the Eagles actually wrote a song called The Sad Cafe, didn't they? At some point, maybe that's where they got the name, although I think that was later. This album is the one that has their one semi-big hit, Run Home Girl, on it. Love them, but the name, I'm not so sure what a Sad Cafe is. Is that where you go to cry in your coffee? Okay. Sneaker. I don't see a shoe anywhere on this album cover, nor on the back. There are foots and shoes on the back, I guess, here and here. I don't really think of sneaker. To me is a shoe. They had one big hit called More Than Just the Two of Us. I just picked up their second album from Adam at Record Crate. Can't wait to get a hold of it because I love this one. But I always thought the name was strange. And as much as I love them, this next band, Starland Vocal Band. I'm not even sure where they came up with this name. I always thought it was cool. Of course, they had 4 albums plus a Christmas album. Most people only know this album, which had Afternoon Delight on it. They had 3 other albums follow it. Great band, great music. One of my favorite bands of all time, actually, but they're not really a band. They're a vocal group. So technically it should be Starland Vocal Group with Bill Danoff's guitar. Because to my knowledge, John and Margot and Taffy were not playing instruments on stage unless they were acoustic. But technically they're not a band. The vocal band, vocal group, I suppose. I don't know. But I always thought it was a strange name. Styx. Named after the river Styx, supposedly. I don't know whether that's true or not. But it certainly sold a lot of albums. I think I have most of their albums. I'm missing the first 2 reissues. But everything else I have. Styx was always one of my favorite bands in the 70s and 80s. They were the first rock band I ever saw in concert. Absolutely stupendous. Saw them on the Pieces of 8 tour. Fantastic. But the name, it's short and memorable, but still a little strange. Everybody knows the story about how Three Dog Night got their name. Three Dog Night is, of course, it relates to the outback or the desert or somewhere. If it was going to get really cold, it was said to be a three-dog night. Clever name for a band, a bit weird, but it certainly was successful for 5 years in the late 60s and early 70s. They were a great band, always will be. This is the only album I have other than the Greatest Hits album by them. It's their live album. Terrific band. Vapor Trails. Vapor Trails named for the trail of white that you see coming off an airplane, I would assume, or a rocket. Used with the British or Canadian spelling, V-A-P-O-U-R. American band would only have the V-A-P-O-R, probably. Found this album and this group through one of the Lost Leaders albums from Warner Brothers. Terrific album. I think it's the only one they did. Great pop rock from late 70s. Still a little bit off, weird name. This album has seen better days. White Plains. What exactly is White Plains? White Sands? I don't know. This album I had purchased, as you can see, it's old. It's coming out the bottom. When I was 6 years old, when the song My Baby Loves Lemon was out. The album is never played properly. The song title track has always skipped. So I have it on a single instead. The rest of the album is pretty good. Of course, White Plains, one of the many bands led by the gentleman whose name escapes me right now, who was also in Edison Lighthouse and United We Stand, Brotherhood of Man, the original version, Tony Burrows. He actually appeared one night on Top of the Pops, fronting 3 different bands, and White Plains was one of them. I don't get the name, though. Yes, the Buggles. Not quite as good as the Beatles, right, Rachel? The Buggles. This was their first album, The Age of Plastic. This was my primer in the world of New Age. Them and Rock Lobster by B-52s. Love this album. Love their second album. Buggles, I'm assuming, is a play on Beatles. I don't know, but it's certainly one of those weirder monikers. Speaking of pseudo-echo earlier, Lips Inc. Clever play on words. Lips Inc., of course, had the original version of Funky Town, what this album is from, is off this album. Lips Inc., the brainchild of Steve Greenberg. Very cute, clever play on words. I always thought it was great. One of my favorite band names of all time. 4 albums. I'm still trying to get the second 2 that I didn't know existed until recently. I have the first 2. Being the disco fan that I am. Shudder. Naked Eyes. Are eyes naked? No, I don't think they are. They have eyelids and eyelashes and around them. Great album, though. Both of their albums were great. Terrific sounding stuff. But I always thought the name was kind of weird. Of course, this one here is the one with Always Something There to Remind Me and Promises on it. Terrific stuff from the early 80s. And finally, bringing up Mr. Magic Box. What I think is quite possibly the goofiest name, or the strangest name, or the most terrifying name of all time, and I can't believe I have it in my collection. It is by Magic Box over here. Elvis Hitler. They are a punk band from Michigan or Wisconsin, I forget which, that were around for 3 or 4 years in the late 80s and early 90s. From the album Super Sadomasochistic Expialidocious, I bought it. I bought the cassette of it. because I saw the title of the album and I thought, oh my God. And then I looked at it and realized there is a punk thrash cover of the Ohio Express ultimate bubblegum song, Yummy, 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 on it. It is scary and hilarious at the same time. So those are my ideas about band names. I hope you like what I came up with. Just as an aside, my wife and I have a friend who was in bands back in the 90s. Excuse me. He no longer is. But one of the names, of course, in the height of the grunge era, when they came up with some really goofy names like Temple of the Dog and Stone Temple Pilots, and I'm not a big grunge fan. I think most of the names are kind of weird. Alice in Chains. One night during a booze and pot-filled session, the members of the band were sitting around, throwing around ideas for new band names. One of them came up with something that is still a running joke in the circle of friends, because it was just so outrageous. They wanted to name their heavy metal band, they were a pop metal, heavy metal hair band, Crafty Strapped Pigeon. I'll close on that. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.